Okay.
Skip Bayless, I want to ask you one thing. Are these guys basketball players or pastry chefs? Because both of them yesterday were serving up fresh baked lies.
Lies?
Lies.
Wow.
Both of them lied. Let me start with Paul George. Skip, I have no problem with Paul George because I've been very player-friendly, football, basketball, baseball. I'm very much on the side of the player.
Unless they're on the team you don't like. But go ahead. Yeah.
And if you're unhappy in your situation, you should go to management and says, okay, I'm unhappy.
Yeah.
Just like management comes to you sometimes and say, we're moving on. Skip, for him to sit up there on that stage and tell that bold-faced lie, Russ, Sam Preston, and Mr. Clay Bennett, we were in agreement. It was time to part ways. No, it didn't. You went to Sam Preston and said, trade me to the Clippers. And then once that surfaced, Sam's like, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with this. Paul, because it's going to get out eventually, Skip, and have to deal with this throughout the entirety of the season. Let me see what I can extract from the Clippers, and then, okay, we're going to move on. Okay, that's how that happened.
He said it got stagnant after a year in Oklahoma City.
Hold on, Skip. Now, he stood up on the stage, smoking stogies. You know, we going to win, and we going to do all this. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Skip, Paul George, a year ago, was a free agent. Am I correct? He could have gone to the Clippers. I believe if he goes to the Clippers, Skip, he's like, I want to sign with the Clippers. They're going to move the necessary pieces to make it fit. Now, maybe, could it have fit? I don't know, but they did trade Chris Paul. Maybe they'd have to move another piece because they already traded Chris Paul before the season started. So they might have would have had to move another piece. But if Paul George goes to the Clippers and says, I want to come here, they're going to move the pieces to make sure they can get a Paul George. Now, let me talk to Kawhi. Kawhi. You see, Skip?
I thought you loved him.
I do. And I have no problem in what he did. Got no problem. But you see what happened, Skip Bayless? This is what's occurring here. LeBron James is the crash test dummy. He's informed players how not to do certain things. Because LeBron has been powerful for so long, any transaction that happened in his organization, what do they feel, Skip? He pulled the trigger. Well, Kawhi doesn't want that kind of backlash. So he's like, I had nothing to do with it. We know what good and well. Kawhi went to the Clippers and said, if you can get me another superstar, because he's asking for KD. He asking for Jimmy Butler. He asked Kyrie. It was reported that he asked for, is James Harden available? Someone else, I forget who it was. Were they available? So we know this happened. So for him to say, well, I had nothing to do with this, and if you think I had something to do with it, I maybe should get a front office job. Stop it, Kawhi. Just own it. I got no problem. Skip, I had a homeboy, I think we was in like the 7th grade, and every day he come to school with a pocket full of gum. And I know he ain't got no money. I'm like, bruh, how you keep coming to school every day with all this gum? He said, I steal it. He was up front with me. He honest. He wasn't going to sit there and bulljive me and say, man, I paid for it. No, you stole it. Kawhi, just own it. You told the Clippers, if you can get me a second superstar, Paul George or anybody, I'll sign with you. Paul George, just admit, once Kawhi put that bug in my ear, bro, I really want to go to the Clips. And if you can get there, bro, I think we can be a heck of a tandem, and that'll be great. It's all gravy. Just own it.
Okay.
But I sure wish Paul George would get some of that old criticism that Anthony Davis is getting. Because if I'm not mistaken, is he on the contract? Then he got a couple of years left. I sure wish you can get some of that, Skip. But you see what's happened? See, the difference is they both committed crimes. Now, Anthony Davis went into a bank with a gun and everybody saw it. Oh, Paul George did old cyber crime. He hacked into somebody's old bank account and stole all their money. Both of them did the exact same thing. One was a little quieter than the other. Remember I said, Skip, you can steal more at gunpoint. You can steal more at ballpoint than you can at gunpoint. They need to stop this. I got no problem with what they did. I'm happy for the Clippers. Everybody was excited. There's a lot of buzz, and rightfully so.
A lot of buzz.
But Skip, don't sit up there and lie and talk about, I had nothing to do with this, and we were all in agreement this was the best for everybody. No, it wasn't.
So, you could be right that they rearranged the truth a little bit here and there.
Okay,
you could be right. I must admit, I was astounded and highly skeptical that both number 2 and Paul George claimed that they grew up Clippers fans.
Yeah.
But then I scoured back through internet backlogs, and I think they both were Clippers fans growing up. And number 2 went so far as to say he did not like the Lakers when he was growing up in the 90s in Southern California. So after I was skeptical, I'm going to buy into that. Now, the Paul George situation, you make a good case because what happened was he took 1 year with Russ and he decided exactly what Kevin Durant decided. I just can't win with this guy as my primary decision maker, but he had one big plus on his side. The architect of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Sam Presti, decided the same thing. Like, I can't win with this. Sam Presti was ready to blow it up, which blows up your theory because Paul George became quickly available because Russ was available to be shipped to Houston, right? So I can't condemn.
Was it before or after?
I think it was right on. I think Sam Presti had already decided it's time. I got to start completely over. And again, Sam Presti, as Paul George pointed out, he got quite a haul for shipping out both players, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Oklahoma City started over. So that meant that I can't completely condemn Paul George for what he pulled off, a la what AD pulled off, okay? So we're going to get to that in a little bit here. Now, big picture takeaway for me as I watched this unfold yesterday. And I went into it just wide-eyed, like I don't know what's going to happen. I want to see what number 2 does. Is he going to be in the spotlight? Not really, because Paul George was the alpha up there on the podium. Paul George took over and had more of the comments, though the more pointed comments actually did come quietly from number 2. Did he bamboozle the Lakers? You better believe he did. Did he bamboozle Toronto? You better buy that he did. But yesterday, in his, he goes into his sort of shy kid speak. He's kind of getting down. I don't know. And it's kind of shifty-eyed, and he doesn't want to look at anybody. But he said some strong things that I'm about to get to. Here's my big takeaway. The night of July 5th, 2 big things happened here in Southern California. About 8 p.m. Pacific time, we got rocked with the biggest earthquake we've been hit with here in 20 years. It was a 7.1, and you were fortunate you missed it.
I heard about it.
You heard about it, but it was pretty serious business in my household, I can tell you that.
It was.
And then about 2 hours passed, and just when I thought things had settled down, we got another bombshell dropped on us.
Might have been 8.0.
It was maybe a 10, man. I still can't get it through my head that number 2 bamboozled the Lakers and Toronto, and he's a Clipper. And yesterday, there was another seismic shift, I felt like, in the Southern California marketplace, because my takeaway was that all of a sudden, the stable franchise is the one that used to be the dysfunctional laughingstock. The Clippers, who were the stepchild for so many years, by far the second team, the other team in L.A., suddenly became not only the team in L.A., they're the team in the NBA. By most websites and by most sports books in Vegas, they are the favorite to win the championship. And the more I watched yesterday, the more it dawned on me, unfortunately, I've got to say, and maybe he can fight his way out of this, LeBron is now playing for the other team in L.A. He's now playing for what I consider more of a dysfunctional laughingstock, the Lakers, run by Jeannie Buss and Linda Rambis and Kurt Rambis and Rob Pelinka. They're the second team in L.A. in dysfunction and laughingstock.
If you don't mind me asking, what could the Mets possibly do to overtake the Yankees? What could the Jets possibly do to overtake the Giants? This will always be Laker Central.
So, for proof here, I have the column written by my friend Bill Plaschke, who's been covering L.A. sports for 30-plus years and has been a longtime columnist for the L.A. Times. And if I can quote here from Bill, he says,
what'd he say?
Listening to those 2 guys talk, it was clear they joined the Clippers because the Clippers were everything the Lakers are currently not. Championship coach, steady front office, and a culture not driven by stars. And also, if we go back to the first remark out of number 2's mouth yesterday, he says, he was asked about the Clippers, and he says, I mean, as far as the last few years, as far as the basketball standpoint, the Clippers have been better. Well, he was just stating the truth. Wait a second, I got a stat for you here. You realize that your Lakers, LeBron's Lakers, have now missed the playoffs for 6 straight years?
Has he been there all 6?
No, he has not. But this is the team he joined. This is the team he is the face of.
Without a star.
Do you realize that the Lakers over those 6 seasons are tied with the Knicks for the worst record in the NBA?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Wow.
They're at the bottom of the barrel right now, tied with the Knicks for the worst record. Do you realize over that span of time, the last 6 years, the Clippers have the 5th best record in the NBA? So they've been kind of a perennial playoff team. They've been a factor.
Well, Skip, that was,
right?
of all the things that he said, that was the most truthful statement that I believe Kawhi uttered. And he's not lying, because you look at top to bottom, you take the CEO, the owner, Steve Ballmer. Skip, if he can run Microsoft, he can damn sure run the Clippers.
Okay.
Jerry West, Bob the Builder, he built the Lakers.
Keep going.
He built
Keep
Memphis.
going.
He
Keep
helped
going.
build Golden
Keep
State.
going.
And then you got championship
Keep
coach
going.
Doc Rivers.
Keep going.
It's not
I
a
know.
lie. It's
That's what I
fact.
felt like.
Yes.
That's why Bill Plaschke wrote yesterday, Lob City always felt hokey, and that was the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin.
Right.
And it was always like, we're trying hard, we're trying to be the Lakers,
Right.
but we can't be because we're not built right. And Plaschke finally comes to this conclusion. This feels real. This feels like it could have some traction. This feels like a city is going to start paying closer attention to the Los Angeles Clippers.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.